Okay, now I want to discuss, now that we've learned how the pieces move, just basic capturing and moving pieces, some things that you should know about. Maybe the two basic things are, you're not allowed to move a chess piece to a square that's already occupied by one of your own pieces. So in this example, here's this knight here. Now the knight, we know, could move in this position. If we look at all the L shapes, it could move to any one of these three squares that I'm drawing. So it has to move to an unoccupied square. Well, not exactly, but it can't move to a square that's occupied by its own piece. So in this case, it could not move to this square because it's already occupied by the queen. But it could move to one of these two squares. Okay? So let's take another example. Let's take this rook. Can this rook move? This one right here. The answer is no. Now we know that the rook moves. The possible rook moves, if you were to draw them, would be all the way like this. Okay. Now, maybe I should say that you're not allowed to jump over other pieces. So when you draw this, the rook starts here and then starts to move like in this direction. So one, it can't move to a occupied square, and two, it can't move over pieces. So basically this rook is blocked in, because when it goes to anywhere it can move, it says this square is occupied, but I also can't jump over it. So if it starts moving this way, it says, well, I move to the next square, it's already occupied by my piece, but I can't move over it. So this rook cannot move. How about this bishop? Well, we know the bishop could move. If we were to draw all the possible diagonals, it could move sort of like this. But when you look in this direction, this first spot is already occupied by a pawn. So the bishop can actually not move beyond it. So this bishop cannot move to the square highlighted in red because it would have to jump over a piece, and that's not allowed for the bishop. But the bishop could move to any one of these squares highlighted in green. Okay? So let's pick another piece movement. How about this bishop right here? Now the movement for this bishop would be something like this, because it moves along all these diagonals. Right? Sort of what you learn. But now there's some, but it can't move with all these squares. Why? Well, let's look. Let's look along this diagonal. Well, it can move to any one of these squares right here. This square and this square, because it moves this direction. They're not occupied by another white piece. Okay? Let's move in this direction. Well, unfortunately, it can't move to this square here because it's already occupied by a white piece. And that sort of stops our movement of the bishop in this direction because it also can't jump over a piece. So let's take this direction. Well, it can move here, but it cannot move here because this space is already occupied by another white piece. Now let's go in this direction. It can't move here, here, and here. Notice how I'm starting with the bishop and going out because that's how it moves. It starts with where the piece is and it moves along this direction. Okay? Now, it can technically move here. And this is where I get into the thing of capturing. Capturing a piece is, you're allowed to capture a piece if it's along its path and it's sort of at the end of its travel path. So it can actually capture this piece. Now, the bishop cannot, just making sure we're clear, cannot move here because it's not allowed to jump over a piece. So what would happen? Let's say the bishop did want to move to where this pawn is, or just let me clear the board. So this, wants to move here, what would happen? Because it can't move here. If that's the case, you'd end up moving the bishop here and capturing, which means you would put your bishop here and then remove the piece. Alright, let's do that. And the other arrows you saw were actually from my chess program, which I probably need to turn off. But as you saw, we moved the bishop here, and we removed that black pawn that was there. So let's say, can we capture this bishop? The answer is yes. This bishop here can actually capture this bishop. I just want to draw what are the possible moves for this black bishop. Well, these are the two sort of, moves in diagonals. Well, obviously the bishop cannot move to this square because it's occupied by a piece. That stops us from moving anywhere along this line now because it can't jump over a piece. But we can capture this white bishop because it lies along our path. It's the first square, okay? And we can move our piece here. But this black bishop cannot move over a piece, so actually this black bishop cannot move to this square, this green square I'm highlighting. It cannot move there. Maybe I should have made it red. But it can move here. Because it's not our own piece, and it is along our travel path. Okay, so this bishop can be captured by this bishop. And I'll do that. Okay? So hopefully you're getting the idea now of how pieces move, or the sense of moving the chess pieces. First you have to learn how they move, and then some basic rules about moving and capturing. So they move along their travel paths, but they cannot, jump over their own piece or other pieces, or they can't jump over any piece, period. And if they want to capture, it has to be at the end of their travel path. So let's say I took a look at this rook. I'll just do two more examples of this. So let's say I want to look at this rook down here. Now, technically this rook would, if we were to draw how it sort of moves, we'd draw all these, but the rook really can't move in this direction because the first square is occupied by its own piece and we can't jump over pieces. So really the rook cannot move this direction at all. But it could move along any one of these squares because we haven't encountered a piece yet. The first one we encounter is a black piece. We know we can capture that one. But we cannot come and try to capture or move to this square because we can't jump over pieces. So let's just say we want to capture that piece. So the rook could actually move here. Okay? And by the same thing, this black rook could actually take back. The rook cannot move in this direction because the first square is a knight, and it can't jump over. But it could move in this direction. Now notice that this rook, this black rook here, cannot actually move to any one of these squares. I'm going to highlight those in red, just as with an arrow, because it would be jumping over a piece, and it isn't allowed to jump over a piece, but it could move and capture this rook, because it can move here, because it's not its own piece. And when it moves there, when you move it there, then that piece that was occupied there moves off the board. Now the only exception to this jumping rule is the knight. That's the one reason I put this knight on the board right here, is because the knight is the only piece that's allowed to jump over another piece. In this case, the knight can actually move to several locations, but the main two I want to focus on are this one and that one. So the knight can actually move in any direction because it jumps over pieces. So it doesn't have this rule about jumping over pieces. So it could actually come and occupy this same spot as this rook, or capture this rook, or capture this bishop right here, or it could even move over to here, or to here, or it could actually move back to here or to here. Okay?